Hello, Acar here. I'm doing a video today update on the bearded dragon. You see, this is my bearded dragon. And if you have seen my older videos with him, you will know that, or notice that this is a new tank that I have from him. A new setup that I have, a new setup. He seems to like it. He knows where the heat area is. I have that says the warm area, and this says the cool area, and this says the divider. And he really seems to enjoy it. I save money on the substrate by just using old shirts that I don't wear, and then I will, when he soils them, I will clean up when it gets too dirty, maybe once a week or so. I will take the whole thing up, roll it up, and then put it to wash, and then use another shirt that I never wear, and I just cycle them like that, alternating them. So that's something that you may be able to do if you don't want to spend money every week on the substrate. And if there is a little bit extra that is not covered, just use, regular loose sleeve, and that works fine. Easy to clean up. When they go in their water, if they go for a drink, it may get a little bit wet, but that, it's not really a big problem. Maybe for aesthetic purposes or making it look prettier, you may not want to do a shirt, but it's an economic way of doing it. So you notice my bearded dragon got a lot bigger. I have some crickets that I feed him. I just fed him a little while ago, so I'm not going to feed him now, but you'll have the chance to see him feed later, or you could see one of my other feeding videos that I have made. That rock there is new as well, that I just got today, and I have that as his main basking spot. Yeah, I know I haven't done a video in a while of the bearded dragon, but I figured since I just set this up today, I just got all this today, that I would show you guys him. The light I got from someone else who was done keeping bearded dragons or lizards in general, so I got that for free. The pet store, I asked them what, because this tank was $100, $125 with tax. I asked them what can they throw in. That's always important to ask the manager. Is there anything that they could throw in? Maybe some free bugs or a free background, which is what I got. I asked them about that, and they gave me a free background and 50 free crickets. And so you always ask, because they're not just going to say, hey, by the way, you're entitled to free this or free that. Always ask, because you usually can get, instead of buying a water dish, you could just fill up a Tupperware like I have here, especially as they get bigger, and that should be fine. You can, if you have an old one from when they were smaller for when you just got one, that's fine as well. You can also use that as a food dish and use this as a water dish, or vice versa. Bugs are the best diet for them, although you can use the commercial foods as well. It's good to do the if you use the insects, it's good to add the calcium. Dust them lightly with calcium before each feeding, or every other feeding is fine. And if you're using commercial food, only dust it maybe once or twice a week, because they usually are already pre-balanced with the nutrition for a bearded dragon, including much of the calcium. Not all of it. I would say that a supplement is still okay, but I don't think they need as much as they would if you're just feeding insects, or insects low on calcium like crickets. You can feed them vegetables that are high in calcium, like kale is pretty high, dandelions are pretty high. So you can make that part of their daily salad as well to supplement the calcium in the commercial diet food. His main diet is the commercial variety of food. The crickets I usually get for him maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks or so, and I feed him that for the week. And those I will dust with calcium to 2 to 3 feedings. I would say with bearded dragons, remember they are from the desert, the Australian desert. See, he's wondering what's going on right now. They are from the Australian desert, and so one thing you should keep in mind is that in the desert, even, in Australia where there's a little bit more of the shrubs and grasses and stuff for bugs to hide in, they're not going to get a meal every single day. That's just not going to happen. What I do is usually once a week or so, I will, for the day, not feed him, so that it cleans out their system, almost like a day's fast to clean out their system. Some people may not do that. If you give him a diet that's already considered low on nutrition or just low in quantity, then yeah, feed them every day. But if you're feeding them well and they're eating, to the most that they can eat every day, or what's recommended by people, then I would say it's healthy. Maybe not once a week, but maybe once every 2 weeks. Skip the meal. Maybe you can give them like a waxworm or two as a little bit of fatty supplement to fill them up. This would also be a good opportunity to bathe them, clean their cage out, because everything's clean. You're not doing a big feeding, so that might be a good chance to clean out the cage and bathe them. And since they're already out of the cage, could you bathe them? Maybe let them run around a bit or play with them. If they're younger, you want to keep a close eye on them, because mine, when he was younger, was very skittishy. If they are, you may want to exercise caution and keeping them out. Maybe by the doors, you put something at the bottom of the door so that they can't get out. If you have stairs in your room like I do, you blockade it with boxes or whatever that is too high for them to get over. Things like that. You don't want them escaping. And if they do escape, you want to make sure that there is that everything is closed off, so that way you can catch them without them running away. If you have your bed, some may try and go under the bed or a sofa. You might want to take a towel or something like that and use that over the bed, over the side of the bed, so that they can't see the bottom, the underneath, so that it may be less likely that they'll want to go under. Sorry. So that's how basically I care for my bearded dragon lizard. A lot of people probably already comments already writing about, oh, you can't do this or you have to do this. If it's working, as it appears to be working, then it should be fine. Each person, each bearded dragon is unique and has its own needs. And, animals are pretty hardy. Bearded dragons are hardier than most lizards, so they are forgiving if, conditions are not ideal. But this is essentially the basic needs of your bearded dragon. Some people will say you need to supplement with vitamins. If you have access to that and you are able to afford it, go right ahead. If you're using a diet food, you don't need it as much. If you're using only insects like crickets, crickets tend to be a little bit low in nutrients because the pet stores don't feed them all that much, because they're there one day, they're sold the next, they don't really care about them. So if you're just feeding crickets, I think yes, absolutely. Supplement them with that with the vitamins, the different brands. You could look up which ones are quality. But because mine does primarily the commercial diet, it's already balanced for that. So the only thing I do is the calcium. For other vitamins and stuff, maybe once a week, I will give him maybe a blueberry, a strawberry, maybe a small little fruit. I would not recommend citrus fruits because citric acid is tough on the stomach for such a small creature. So like oranges, lemons, limes, pineapple even is a little bit risky. I wouldn't use that. But, if you have a little piece of apple, a little piece of peach, blueberry, a strawberry, they will enjoy that. So you could give them that. Little things like that. And when they're young, it is important to pet them, maybe once a day. You want to pet going downwards, not upwards, because their scales go down, so it's a little bit uncomfortable for them. You want to pet downwards, again, along with the scales, not against. Cutting their nails is another thing. If they're young and they're skittish, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but as they get older and they become a little bit more relaxed with you and they trust you and they're willing to sit down with you without running away every 30 seconds, maybe at night, maybe if you normally have them go to bed around 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever, have them up till maybe 11:30, and they'll be really tired. You turn off their light, you pick them up, you hold them in your lap, and you let them sort of fall asleep. And then cutting their nails will be so much easier because they're not going to want to move, they're very tired. You could do that, or very early in the morning when they first wake up, you can cut their nails that way. You could look up on YouTube or on Google the tutorial on how to cut their nails. You'll find many helpful videos that tell you about the quick and how far to cut and what devices you can use and how to stop the bleeding if you cut too deep.
See if it's up there.
So yeah, you could check on YouTube or Google for advice on how you can cut their nails. That'll work. Yeah, he's trying to get to the crickets. With bearded dragons, because they live in the desert and food tends to be scarce in the desert, it's very difficult for them to get the feeling of fullness as we know it. If after eating, maybe 30 to 40 crickets, 50 crickets, sure, they're going to stop eating because they literally cannot eat anymore. People say just let them eat for 15 minutes, however much that they're possibly able to fit in their stomachs. I know if I went to a buffet and did that every single day, I would be super fat and that would not be too cool. So I would not recommend that for a lizard. Some people do. But I know for a fact that in the wild, they do not get nearly 50 to 80 crickets a day in the middle of the desert. That's highly unlikely. They may find, during the good season, when things are growing a little bit better, they might find more crickets, and maybe that's their primary breeding season to align with that. But I find it hard to believe that in the middle of the desert, you're going to get around 80 bugs a day. I really do. 50 to 80 bugs a day. So, in the beginning with him, I gave him about 15 crickets a day. And, maybe I'd supplement it once or twice a week with 2 waxworms and a few small mealworms. With the mealworms, you have to be careful not to feed them the large ones. You want to feed them some relatively small ones, because otherwise the shell is a little bit hard for them to digest. Some people feed it to them, and those bearded dragons do fine. I attribute this to the fact that because they eat all the time, their bodies adapt to it, and so, that's fine. But if let's say you get one from the pet store, you don't know if it's adapt to eating and digesting that stuff, which it probably isn't. I would lean on the side of caution. If you want to give them once a week as a little treat because they really like them, feed them the smaller ones, and that should be fine. I think waxworms are a good treat for them. They really, really, really love waxworms and butterworms. So those are some things you could give them as a treat. Yeah, raising bearded dragons and keeping them is really quite easy. It's not a difficult task, and it's quite fun. I've had him, I think, for about 9 months, or something like that, maybe 10 months. No, let me see, I got him in October, so that's 11 months. I've had him for 11 months now, between 10 and 11 months, and so he's probably, about a year old, maybe a little bit more or less. So this is generally the size that you can expect them to get in a year. Maybe more, maybe less, but this is how big mine is at a year, so you can expect that. Mine is a male, and I believe he is to get a little bit bigger than he is now. So you can expect them to get a little bit larger, and that also depends on the genetics, the type of bearded dragon, exactly what his diet is, what's in his diet, the heat that you have, how good it is, things like that. Now, the other thing is, with the lighting, you need to have a UVB light. That's the UVB is the one over here, You need to have one of those. If you do not have one, your bearded dragon will not be able to digest his food properly and will die. You also need to have a heat lamp, which is the one over there. And the heat lamp gives them the needed heat to digest their food, while the UVB provides them with the nutrients that they would get from the sun. That helps them in digestion of food and among other things. So without the heat lights, those two, the regular heat light and the UVB, you can say goodbye to your bearded dragon. That's one thing. I know some people have managed without it. Most of these people will live in a warmer climate where they keep their bearded dragons outside. What's happening, Beardy? What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? You can't go through glass. They don't understand the concept of glass, these lizards. But okay. So that's basically how I care for my bearded dragon. Yeah, that's the essentials of it. Are you starting to realize you can't go any further, Beardy? The heat light, one note on the heat light, people say that at the basking spot it needs to be around 90 degrees or so. And I'd say that's a pretty good estimate, a number to go by. A lot of people do it and it's very successful. So I would say, you know, if you're able to, when you buy the tank, get a thermometer for the tank and see how hot it is at the basking spot. See that it's about around 90 degrees. You know, a little bit more is fine. A little bit less is not, you know, that great. If they are, a good way to tell if it's too hot or too cold is if they are under it and they are panting, it's probably a little bit too warm. If they are doing everything in their power to get away from that area, it's most certainly too warm. If they're spending all their time under there, it's probably a little bit too cold. But you see, if they're able to walk around comfortably, then you know it's pretty good. They're there some of the time, but they walk around comfortably without, you know, being too hot or too cold, then you know you've got it at a good balance. What do you want, Beardy? What are you doing? So this is a relatively long video I've created, but I wanted to give you this information because I know I haven't made a video in a long time. So I'm making it up with this really long video on how to take care of a bearded dragon, or at least how I care for a bearded dragon. You may find a method that may be better or maybe worse. There's mixed reviews on a lot of things. You know, like the substrate, people say use this one, don't use this one, use this one. I just use a shirt. That's been working for me. Some people say you have to use a tile, you have to use sand. Do not use walnut shavings. Do not use this shavings. Use this one. I just use a shirt. That's been working. There's no risk of impaction. He's not going to swallow the shirt. You know, it doesn't really hold heat well, but this is the cool side anyways. I just put all this stuff here that's going to absorb heat on the heat side, so he could get the heat that he needs. And the shirt, I would think, is way more comfortable. You know, it's probably made out of cotton or some sort of fabric like that, and so it's a little bit more comfortable for them. It's cheaper. You don't need to go out and rebuy a bag every few weeks or months or however long it lasts for you guys. And also the tank size. You could start them if you're getting baby bearded dragons in a 20 long and gradually move them up, but I find that, and that's pretty much what I did. But I find that to be rather expensive, as tanks are expensive. I started him off in a 20-gallon long. Then I put him in a 36-gallon bow front. The 20-gallon long, that was nearly $100. I think it was like $80 or something like that. Maybe $60 to $80. And, you know, all this stuff with it, like these things like this little rock, that, the food dish, the vine that I had at the time, and any other stuff that I had, all that took money, and which you're gonna spend in the beginning. The 36 bow front, or 26 bow front rather, that one was also pretty expensive. That I believe it was like around $100 as well, maybe a little bit more. And at least that's what my local pet store pays for it. That one, I forget where we got it from. I think that one we got from someone that was also not having fish anymore. And so we converted it into the lizard's tank. But that, that's a good idea also if you know someone getting rid of their tank and it's relatively large. Take it for your bearded dragon if you have one that's smaller and you're looking to upgrade. This tank here is a 40 breeder aquarium. And it cost, I think it was with tax, $125. So my advice, if you're going to get a lizard like this, a bearded dragon, go ahead and go the extra mile. Get the 40 breeder to begin with. That will save you about $200 in the long run. And, you get the stuff that it's going to use as an adult. And you have it in here. And don't forget about the hood so that he doesn't escape, especially as a younger. I know he's not going to escape. That's why I have it like this and just have the hood like this, because he sometimes will walk around. He's escaped from his cage before and he hasn't gone anywhere. He just stays on the hood and that's it. But if you have a new bearded dragon, I would not trust them. I wouldn't really trust any bearded dragon. I should really have a full hood on this. But get the full hood. Do not trust your bearded dragon. Around animals, don't trust, any animals around it. Trusting your animals around it can be pretty dangerous for the lizard, as he may appear to be a toy or a tasty treat, for them. You don't want to come home to that mess. So if you have a cat, have a large dog, definitely have a hood on it so that they don't get in here and eat your lizard or play with it to death. Because what this big cat or dog views as playing, he thinks of as the apocalypse. You don't need that. He doesn't need that. Your animals don't need it. It's not a good mix. So don't trust your animals. I wouldn't feed them fish, only because they live in the desert, and I don't think that's very often that they're going to find fish, so I don't think fish is the ideal diet for a bearded dragon. Just because that's not what they would find in the wild. Crickets, they'd likely find roaches. You can find that anywhere around the road, so roaches are fine. Different types of worms, like waxworms. They find grubs like that out in the outback as well. They're not going to find a goldfish or a minnow in the middle of the desert. There's not really that many pools of water that has them. I'm sure if you look around you might find an oasis that has some small fish or crayfish, but that's not something that they're commonly going to find, so I don't think the majority of them have the stomach built to consume those creatures. So yeah, this was a long video, but I hope it was helpful to some of you on how to care for a bearded dragon, or the basics of what I do. Whatever you do that works is great. And remember, before you buy any pet, do your research, look up what to do, look up what you need to look for in a bearded dragon before you buy them, and so on. Because when you have these guys, you're going to have them for a number of years. So you want to be prepared for the responsibility that comes with them. And also, if you do get a bearded dragon, things in our life change. So see if, you have, let's say, an uncle. He loves animals. He has lots of fish. He always wanted to have a lizard. So, or maybe a friend who loves, nature and stuff like that. Let's say there comes a point where you just are not able to care for the lizard anymore. What are you going to do with the lizard? Where are you going to put it? Are you going to bring it to a pet store? Is the pet store willing to accept it back? Is there maybe a reptile show in the area where there's people that would be willing to buy him off you? Do you have a friend that would be willing to take him if you had to? Maybe someone who babysits him while you're on vacation. That might be an ideal candidate to offer it to. Yeah, you want to do your research on everything before you buy the lizard. You do it after, and you may find, oops, I need this, I don't have this, this lizard's gonna die in 2 days unless I get this, oh, the pet store is an hour away, what am I gonna do? and that's not a situation that you need or should be in, and not a situation that your animal should be in either. So I thank you for watching this 25-minute long video, if you're still watching, and hope to see you later. Please comment down below if you have any questions, and me or other YouTube people who are watching this video can try and answer it. If you agree with my methods, go ahead and like the video. Or if you want to try this for yourself, go ahead and like the video. If you just like bearded dragons, like the video. If you hate lizards and you hate care for animals, go ahead and dislike this video. Alright, thank you for watching and see you later. Bye.